When I paid off their mortgage, they said, "Don't get cocky. This is just what you're supposed to do." 2 weeks later, they hosted a family dinner and didn't invite me. My husband said, "It was just a miscommunication." I said, "No, it was a message." So I sent one back, through a lawyer, with receipts they weren't ready for. My name is Jenna. I'm 42, married for 18 years to a man named Craig. We live in Louisville, Kentucky, on the nicer side of town, near Cherokee Park. It took me years to work my way up. I wasn't born into money. I built my accounting firm from scratch. Late nights, lost weekends, long winters where I barely saw the sun. Meanwhile, Craig's family had always lived a pretty comfortable life. Not flashy, but stable. They owned a modest house in Shively. Mortgage still hanging over their heads, but manageable. His parents, Dan and Marlene, were those classic Midwestern types, polite to your face, cold behind your back. I thought we had a decent relationship. I really did. I'm the one who always brought over gifts on birthdays. I'm the one who offered to cover their vet bills when their aging lab, Buddy, needed surgery. I helped them refinance their car loan. I even did their taxes. For free. Every year. Never asked for anything back. I believed family helped family. So in 2021, when Marlene was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer, and they were struggling to keep up with her medical bills, I sat down with Craig and said, "Let's pay off their mortgage." We had the money. My firm had landed a big client that spring. After taxes, I had about $200,000 in surplus just sitting there. Craig hesitated, said he didn't want them to feel like they owed us. But I said, "This isn't about pride. This is about giving them peace of mind while she goes through treatment." He agreed. We called the bank, paid off the $76,485 remaining on their loan. Craig told them the next day over dinner. I remember their faces. Dan didn't say much, just nodded. Marlene put down her fork, looked at me, and said, "Don't get cocky. This is just what you're supposed to do when you marry into a family." No thank you. No hug. No warmth. I laughed it off at the time. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she was scared about her diagnosis. I gave her grace. I always gave them grace. But then 2 weeks later, the real slap came. Craig came home from work one night, it was a Thursday, and said, "Oh, by the way, Mom and Dad had everyone over for dinner last weekend." I blinked. "Everyone?" He nodded. "Yeah. Dave and Mindy came down from Cincinnati. Jason brought the twins. I guess Aunt Marie was even there." I said nothing, just stared at him. He frowned. "They didn't invite you?" "No," I said slowly. "We didn't get an invite. Did you?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "I thought it was just a casual thing," he said. "Probably a miscommunication." "No," I replied. "It was a message." And it was. I checked Facebook that night. Mindy had posted a group photo. Everyone was smiling around the fire pit in Dan and Marlene's backyard, holding up drinks, laughing. I wasn't tagged. Neither was Craig. But I saw it. I saved it. The next day, I called my lawyer. You see, what Dan and Marlene didn't know was that I didn't just send money to the bank and wipe the mortgage off the books. I handled it as a legal gift, with proper documentation, witnessed and signed. But I attached a clause. A quiet one. Just a few lines in the contract. In the event of willful estrangement or demonstrable exclusion from familial rights, the monetary gift of $76,485 shall be considered a repayable loan, with interest compounded annually at a rate of 5.5%. Marlene signed it. So did Dan. They didn't read it. Or they didn't understand it. They just thought I was being overly formal. I have receipts. So my lawyer drafted a letter. It was polite, cold, precise. It outlined the date of the dinner, the lack of invitation, the documentation, the clause, and it requested full repayment of the mortgage amount, with interest. Total now due, $82,141.35. The letter was sent via certified mail. Return receipt requested. 3 days later, I got a call from Craig's mom. I didn't answer. Then Craig called me at the office. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted. "They're freaking out. You sent them a legal bill." "Yes," I said calmly. "I'm collecting a debt." "They're your family." "No," I said. "Family doesn't treat you like trash after you save their damn house." He hung up. That night, he didn't come home. I'm not proud of what this did to my marriage. But at that point, I started seeing things for what they really were. Craig had always let them treat me like a second-class member of the family. He never defended me. Not once. When Marlene criticized my weight at Thanksgiving, silence. When Dan rolled his eyes every time I talked about my business, silence. But when I stood up for myself, suddenly I was the villain. Let them spin it however they want. I had legal standing. And I had time. The silence stretched for a few days after that. Craig still hadn't come home. He was staying at a hotel. Or maybe at his brother Jason's place. I didn't care enough to ask. I was done doing all the emotional labor in our marriage. But then the real storm hit. The letter my lawyer sent wasn't just a slap in the face. It was a grenade. It blew up everything. Marlene posted on Facebook. One of those long, dramatic paragraphs with no names, but everyone knew who it was about. She called me greedy. Said she was heartbroken to see a loved one put money above family. The comments were filled with sympathy from church friends, old coworkers, even neighbors. One woman wrote, "Some people only give so they can control you later. So sorry you're going through this, Marlene." I stayed quiet. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the next day my lawyer filed the official notice of intent to collect, legally binding and delivered through the court. Now it wasn't just gossip. It was real. And it got very real for them very fast. They called Craig, begged him to talk to me, to talk some sense into your wife. He came over that night, looked worn down, didn't even sit. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You don't want to do this. It's just money." I looked at him for a long time. Then I asked, "Would you have stood up for me if it had been the other way around? If my mom said those things to you?" He said nothing, just looked at the floor. Then I added, "You didn't even think it was weird that we weren't invited to that dinner. You lied for them." "It wasn't a lie," he muttered. "It was just easier." And that told me everything I needed to know. He left. Again. The next week, Dan and Marlene tried to file a countersuit, claiming they didn't understand what they signed, that I had manipulated them. My lawyer laughed. The document was notarized, dated, and included a clause saying they had been offered the chance to review with independent legal counsel. They had initialed that too. I waited. They blinked first. Marlene called. This time I picked up. She didn't say hi. She said, "You've humiliated us." I replied, "No. You did that yourselves when you decided I wasn't family anymore. You're punishing us because of one dinner?" "No," I said. "I'm holding you accountable for years of quiet disrespect. The dinner was just the final straw." Then she said the one thing that finally made my blood go cold. "Craig's filing for separation." I didn't say a word. "Maybe now you'll think twice before tearing a family apart over money." I hung up. Then I called my lawyer again. Because what they didn't know, not yet, was that Craig's name was on none of the business accounts, none of the investment properties, not even the deed to the house we lived in. Every dime I earned over the years, I kept it protected, separate, clean. See, while they looked down on me for not being one of them, I was building an empire. And I did it alone. So if Craig wanted out, he could go. But he wasn't taking anything with him except his overnight bag and a pile of memories he'd have to sort out without my help. 2 days later, the legal notice was posted on their front door. They had 30 days to settle or respond in court. Marlene messaged me late at night. She said, "I hope you know you've destroyed our son. He loved you." I didn't respond because I was still too busy pulling up everything they'd ever buried, all the receipts they forgot I had, Every cruel remark, every time they forgot to invite me to things, every moment they treated me like I didn't belong. A week after the court notice was posted, Craig finally showed his face again. Not at the house. At my office. I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly numbers with my team when Sheila, my receptionist, buzzed me. "Your husband is here," she said, her voice a little shaky. "He says he needs 5 minutes." I told her to send him in. Craig looked rough. His beard had grown out, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. He sat across from me, picked at the seam of the chair. "I need to talk to you not as your husband," he said, "but as someone who made a mistake." I leaned back in my chair. "You made a lot of mistakes. You'll have to be more specific." He swallowed. "They were wrong. My parents. What they did, it wasn't okay. I just didn't want to be in the middle." "You didn't just stand in the middle," I said. "You took their side. And you let me take the hit alone." "I didn't know you had paperwork," he added. "They told me you paid it off like a gift." "That's what they wanted to believe," I replied. "I've always been transparent. You were in the room when they signed." "I didn't read it." "And whose fault is that?" He didn't answer. Then came the twist I didn't expect. "I want to come back," he said. "I want to fix this. We can withdraw the suit. We can just let it go." I stared at him. For a second, I felt the old pull. The part of me that wanted peace more than justice. But that part of me was tired now. It had been bleeding out for years. "You didn't come here for peace," I said. "You came here because they told you to. Because they're scared. Because they didn't think I'd actually follow through." He shook his head. "No, I came because I miss you. Because I love you. I made the wrong call." "You made a series of wrong calls," I replied. "And now you want to press reset like this is a video game." His eyes filled with tears. I didn't blink. Then I told him something that finally cracked him. "I had the paperwork drawn up 3 years ago. After that Christmas dinner when your mother gave me a used candle and told me not to expect too much, since I wasn't really blood. That was the night I realized they were never going to love me. And you were never going to stop them." His face went blank. "You've been planning this?" "No," I said. "I've been protecting myself. And now I'm cashing in." He left quietly. But 2 days later, I got an email from a paralegal at his new lawyer's office. Craig was contesting the separation. He was claiming partial interest in my business. He was trying to argue that even though he wasn't on the paperwork, my income had supported our lifestyle, and that he was entitled to half of it. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was war. And I was going to win. Craig tried to come for my business. That was the last straw. His new lawyer filed a claim saying that even though my company, J.A. Whitman Financial, was founded before we got married, it had grown during the marriage, and he wanted a share. He said he supported me emotionally during the early years, that I couldn't have done it without him. I laughed when I read the paperwork. Emotionally supportive? That man couldn't be bothered to take the trash out without a reminder. He never once sat through my sleepless nights, never helped me figure out payroll when my firm nearly went under in 2010. While I worked 80-hour weeks building something from nothing, he played video games in the basement and called it decompressing. And now he wanted half. No, absolutely not. I called my attorney, Jenna Roseman, a real shark out of Cincinnati. She'd helped me set up the company as a protected LLC before our wedding. We drafted separate living trusts. Every dime was accounted for. The deed to the house was in my name only. Our joint checking account held less than $400. We went to court. Craig cried on the stand, said I had frozen him out emotionally over the years, said his parents had always loved me and were shocked by what I'd become. I sat there in silence, expression flat. My lawyer played the voicemail Craig's dad left me after I filed the repayment notice. "You cold-hearted bitch. You think you're better than us just because you make more money. You'll end up alone." The courtroom went silent after that. We also submitted photos of the dinner. The one where I was left out with timestamps, guest lists, and text messages that made it clear I was intentionally excluded. Not forgotten. Not a miscommunication. The judge sided with me. Fully. Craig got nothing. No stake in my business. No alimony. No house. Just his car and a few personal items. Dan and Marlene. They ended up settling the repayment outside of court. Quietly, but not cheaply. They sold their truck and took out a second mortgage on a small investment property they owned. They tried to claim hardship, but my lawyer had receipts of their recent trip to Naples, Florida, and a $2,300 furniture purchase 2 months prior. They paid me the full $82,141.35, plus interest. I didn't even spend it. I donated every cent to a local shelter for women starting over after divorce. That was my final message to them. I didn't need their money. I needed my dignity, and now I had it. As for Craig, he moved into a studio apartment near downtown. I heard through a friend that he quit his job and tried starting a podcast about narcissistic women and family betrayal. It got about 200 views, most of them hate watches. One episode, he said, "I was married to a woman who cared more about paperwork than people. I didn't respond. I didn't care. What hurt more was losing his niece and nephew. I used to take them to the zoo, help with homework. After everything happened, their mom, Mindy, cut contact. Said it was too toxic. That part still stings. I didn't go after the kids. But guilt by association runs deep in families like theirs. I didn't date for a while. Didn't even look at another man. I needed space. Time. I focused on the business. Started mentoring young women through the local Chamber of Commerce. One of them asked me once why I was so guarded. I told her, because sometimes the people who say they love you are the ones who will drain you dry. You've got to learn where your line is and defend it like your life depends on it, because someday it might. A year after the divorce, I bought myself a cabin in Red River Gorge. Just for me. Quiet. Peaceful. No drama. I sit on the porch sometimes and look at the sky and think about how close I came to giving up. I'm glad I didn't. I still get the occasional text from Craig. Around the holidays. Once on what would have been our 20th anniversary. Just a simple, "Hope you're well." I never write back. Let silence be my final word. Because, in the end, I didn't just win the fight. I walked away from the war.